Godzilla is a long-running series that has garnered massive popularity and has gotten bigger every year, but it's not necessarily better. I've always felt like movies involving one big monster are hard to make work, only because the topic has never been that interesting to me. While there have been a few cool iterations in the past that spice it up, they end up being forgettable and are caught in the typical trap of tropes and big explosions over substance. A couple of years back, Godzilla vs. Kong was released, and I remember thinking that this was a step in the right direction as far as scale and entertainment value. But even then, no matter how hard they tried, I was never really impacted by any of the characters, and a huge CGI creature isn't enough to completely captivate me and make me go, wow, I have to see that again. The only other big creature movie that was effective was Matt Reeves' 2008 found footage flick, Cloverfield, which changed things up by having the audience in the shoes of the citizens from the ground level as a huge monster wreaks havoc on the city. It was authentic and provided a unique take on the genre I had never seen before, but since then, no feature has really left a lasting impression on me or has really tried anything new, that is, until now. Godzilla Minus One was released in December of last year and follows the story of Shikishima, a failed kamikaze pilot during the final moments of World War II. It is grounded in reality and focuses on the characters, rendering it more of a drama than an action monster flick. The majority of the movie actually focuses on the relationship between our main protagonist and a young lady who has moved in to his destroyed home after the war. The woman is with a baby, but it isn't hers. In addition to these three main characters, there's an array of neighbors that each have their own character and create depth in a way that other Godzilla movies, and movies similar to it, would not. But along with the complex backdrop, we have one of the most menacing and wild iterations of Godzilla I've ever seen. A charred and ruthless monster that destroys entire cities and eats people without remorse. He looks extremely realistic and menacing, all on an impressive $15 million budget. To put this in perspective, $15 million is an extremely low budget for a movie like this. The 2014 Godzilla was upwards of $160 million. That's 100 times the budget, and yet Minus One is able to match the level of CGI and effects, and in some cases, even topping it. It's an achievement in using the budget smartly and efficiently. It puts many modern-day movies to shame, especially ones that have hundreds of millions of dollars thrown into them just to come out like Quantum Mania or She-Hulk, so take notes, Hollywood. But back to this version of Godzilla. The very first sighting of Godzilla happens almost immediately when the movie begins, and a few things are established right off the bat. One, that there's a warning sign when Godzilla is close, and that dead fish are floating in the water. The second thing that's established is that Godzilla will destroy anything and everything in his way. Now, this isn't new, but as he wreaks havoc on the group of soldiers, with our protagonist narrowly escaping, it becomes clear that Godzilla is ruthless. But even from the get-go, the movie goes out of its way to establish an emotional connection with the characters, showing the fear and remorse when fellow men are killed in front of their eyes. Even though we may never see these characters again, the movie sheds a bit of humanity to the destruction, instead of just big explosions and set pieces. Throughout the movie, the characters are fleshed out behind the massive backdrop of Godzilla, and it works in spades. The emotional destruction inflicted on the families and hopeless victims in his path is clearly shown, along with our main character. You feel for the characters, and because the movie brilliantly focuses on this, Godzilla, ironically, becomes 1,000 times more menacing and scary, way more than if we just saw him destroying nameless buildings and causing destruction without any context. Minus One adds just enough context to really make us care for the characters. But what Minus One does so flawlessly is the action sequences with Godzilla. Not only are the graphics stunning, but the epic music adds so much. When Godzilla is wreaking havoc on the city of Japan, nothing is held back as his entire body causes total and utter destruction. The movie takes its time with these sequences and holds the audience captive, instead of just throwing mind-numbing explosions in our faces for 2 hours. But perhaps the most memorable and epic aspect of Godzilla is his atomic breath, aka his nuclear laser move that he does. When Godzilla deems fit, he powers up an obscene blast that shoots out a laser before exploding into a mini atomic bomb. I was holding my breath as everyone in the city looked devastated at the destruction that occurred in front of their faces, along with the audience. The blast is incredibly well done and easily rivals any explosion scene in the last 5 years, including Oppenheimer this year. I was literally and figuratively blown away by the initial scene, and it leaves a lasting impression on the audience. To add on top of everything positive, -1 also uses brainpower. Surprisingly, the movie reminded me of another big creature movie, Jaws. Part of -1 includes a town meeting with a methodical approach to taking him down, similar to that of Jaws. It's a last-ditch effort, but it makes a lot of sense and involves a clever way of taking down Godzilla. It's unique, intriguing, and perfectly moves the story towards the climax. It's a level of storytelling and well-thought-out planning that's so rare to find nowadays, which is pretty sad. Sticking to the disclaimer at the beginning of this video, I won't spoil the ending, but it's brilliantly done. The graphics, the suspense, and build-up are everything a movie like this should have, let alone any movie in general. The editing, the epic soundtrack, and visuals all create a chilling climax. One thing I would compare this to, strangely may I add, is Attack on Titan, or animes like it, particularly how everything is laid out in front of the audience by the protagonist via voiceover, along with a larger-than-life situation involving a big creature, which would be a Titan, but in this case is Godzilla. It's clear that Godzilla -1 and the crew and the production were given enough free rein to truly tell the story they wanted to tell and give them creative freedom to show an incredible iteration of Godzilla and created easily one of the best movies of that genre. For all of these reasons, Godzilla -1 is definitely one of the best movies of the year and is the best iteration of a big monster movie I've ever seen. And the fact that it was all done on a $15 million budget makes me love it even more. So Hollywood should definitely take notes as they're plunging hundreds of millions of dollars just to create movies that look like video games. Did you like -1? Let me know below what you thought of it, and be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with the latest in movies and TV. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video.